When I first joined Dragon Boat, I was not very good. I had little talent. Hence, I embarked on the mission of research because I wanted to get better. I wanted to know my potential. It's taken 9 years of research, and I'm going to show you in one day how you can improve. One day, you're sitting quietly thinking, what should I do with my life? Then suddenly you get a burst of superhuman upper body strength and you think, perhaps I should become a dragon boater. My first club, Naga Spirit, great bunch of guys. We had a great time, and they allowed me to just continue my research, to do my research into Dragon Boat. The second club I joined, CYL, were Australia's fastest paddlers. So they didn't need me. So I was able to continue my research. I used the erg times and the water trials for my personal research. I'm now with Yarra River Dragons in Melbourne, and they love to do the longer distance paddling, which I absolutely love because I had less than zero talent for that before, and I'm absolutely dying to get back in the boat with them because I love my long distance technique, which I'll show you later on this year. But for now, we're going to focus on just improving over 30 seconds to 45 seconds. We'll use 30 seconds as the measure. If you're a novice, today you could probably improve 12 meters, maybe 15. If you're average, you could probably improve by about 10 meters today, over 30 seconds. If you're good or very good, there is still potential for improvement here of about 4 to 6 meters. In the previous video, I advocated how coupled exercise like this can help you improve by several meters over 30 seconds. For top arm drive, you need bend forward at the hip, trunk flexion, shoulder rotation forward, and arm extension. For bottom arm, the coupled movement involves leg drive, a little bit of back extension, some trunk rotation, shoulder retraction, and your arm and the paddle goes backwards. Comparing myself at this stage, a 3-year paddler, to a first-year paddler at CYL, you can see that in the acceleration phase we're pretty much neck and neck, but after the acceleration phase I'm producing 50 watts at least more power. However, after 30 seconds I'm only 3 meters faster than this chap. Whilst I didn't record my power per stroke in my first year, I would say that this chap is pretty much slightly faster than me in my first year. Power output's probably roughly the same. So this is a reasonable representation of my first year. Now the difference is I've developed over time a better technique and I have a lot more power. However, I'm going to the gym just as much as before, probably with slightly better exercises now. My technique in my third year pretty much was my best copy of this chap in the middle of the screen here. Probably the only difference is my top arm drives all the way down so it almost touches the gunnel. But despite all my strength training, I am nowhere near the strength and power of this chap. Then in the space of about a month, I improved by about 8 meters in 30 seconds, over 30 seconds on the erg. And my strength didn't improve in this time. My improvement was entirely as a result of learning some tricks after talking with the great Johnny Vuong from CYL. And I'll go through some of those tricks with you now. Take some notes. One of my first experiments on the erg was comparing the start with 2 legs forward compared to starting with 1 leg forward. And 2 legs forward was superior. I used to use 2 legs for about 7 strokes and then switch to 1 leg for the remainder of the distance. But Johnny had this theory about having 2 engines, 2 different energy reserves. And so after talking to Johnny, I changed my strategy slightly and I started to paddle with 2 legs forward for the first 2 strokes only. So after the first 2 strokes, I would retract the middle leg and put it under the seat, and then I would continue paddling with the gunwale leg forward. But I also incorporated a change to the top arm drive. I used, yes, a lot of push forward and push down, but it almost seemed like I was pulling the arm backwards, much like these guys, using a lot of biceps or perhaps even pectorals. I also incorporated with the bottom arm far more bicep pull much earlier, probably from stroke 1 onwards. By driving with 2 legs first, my gunwale leg didn't have to work so hard, so it was able to save some energy, which allowed me to drive harder for longer during the acceleration phase. You can clearly see how those biomechanical changes improved my acceleration. Now, my acceleration had improved so much that I would now be able to do 128 meters in 30 seconds, which I was absolutely happy with. I could have retired on that note. But as improved as my acceleration was, it did not compare to this awesome paddler on which I had based my technique. Prior to actually recording this awesome paddler on the erg, I had embarked on an experiment. I changed an exercise to see if I could improve my starting, and that exercise did improve my starting, my acceleration phase, to a point. You can see that my acceleration did improve to reasonably match this awesome paddler over the first few strokes, but the exercise was limited in that it focused entirely on the bottom arm. So the point of the exercise is a coupled movement, leg drive, and eventually you get the arm going and the paddle going backwards. The exercise is designed to strengthen all the muscles in the movement so that I can move 20 kilos and 34 kilos at the start for the first 10 strokes. The obvious next area of research was into how the top arm affects paddling, and specifically near the start. So I switched to a Kayak Pro erg from a Concept 2 erg. The Kayak Pro produces about 30% less power output compared to the Concept 2, but nevertheless I made some changes and improved my power output over time. Wow, time flies when you're having fun. I don't want to make it such a long video, so I'll stop it there and we'll continue next week. We'll go into more depth next week. I'll probably explain each phase better, and I'll also show you next week something that'll really change your paddling. It'll improve your power by about 7%. But for now, you should have gained at least 10 meters this week. Next week, another 5 more. Just some quick homework for next week. Practice throwing with your top arm. Use a tennis ball or basketball. Set yourself a distance and try and beat that record.